Hello, welcome to Diary of a Creator. I am Victoria, the Soul Led Career Coach, and this is a channel for ambitious, freedom seeking souls like me who refuse to settle for the ordinary. So, if you are feeling stuck in a career or life that no longer fits, you're starting to question your path and you're craving something more freedom, more alignment, more joy, then you are in the right place. And if my content resonates, I would love it if you could like, share, subscribe, follow. It just helps me to reach more souls who need this message. It has been a hot minute since I have actually been in to record, at least in a long form. So it's good to be back. I have had a little bit of a whirlwind of movement. September was a write off on many degrees, just with personal things. I was traveling, I was moving, and just had focus diverted into other things. But I'm back, coming back whenever I really feel that I have more words to say around something. And what I wanted to dive into today, because for me, at least in my sphere of people running solo businesses, there's a real theme coming out at the moment where I think initially we begin this journey or we're finding a career and like through life where we really get a little bit susceptible to following someone else's map for how we're supposed to do it and where we're supposed to be. And this is all unraveling at the moment, at least in my environment, where people are coming to the realization that that's not working. And it's also not how it is supposed to be done. Because when we talk about soul led anything, career, business, and your career might not be running a business, it's anything that is your soul resonating and directing you towards. That is ultimately what it is all about. It is about your own inner voice guiding your life, however that looks. The issue that we've come up into is that we have a tendency to outsource our direction and our decision making. We allow other people to tell us not only the vision, but also how we do it. You can come unstuck in both ways. When you're moving through this journey, and say you've come out of your corporate career or you've been in your corporate career, and then you feel like something's just not quite fitting, that's where you start the search. You've ended up in that career because you've been unconsciously mapping your paths on where you felt you were going to be validated, needs, markets, all of these different things, which is following someone else's map. But we then have this wake ups where we're like, no, we want to guide our life from our own inner compass, our own truth. And then we start on that journey. And then without us realizing it, we get very susceptible to following someone else's way of doing it. And then we actually end up creating pretty much the same trap as what we were trying to get away from. And what we end up with is a lot of people moving into their career or business that start sounding the same, doing the same. Quite frankly, a lot of the strategies and ways that are being taught give me the ick. And I've always struggled because they always gave me the ick. And then I tried them, still gave me the ick, still didn't want to do them. And I didn't because there was something around my soul. It's just like, if this is what it takes to build a solo business, I'm not entirely sure that I actually even want to. That's how cringed I was with a lot of what this is. But this is changing and this is starting to emerge in many spheres. The call is for greater authenticity and soul voice, and for your soul voice to come out of your business and build it in a way that supports you. You have to map your own path. No one else can map it for you. That is not to say that you aren't going to work with people and have support from people. But the way that you choose that support and the way that support comes into your journey should only ever be defined by your own inner compass of, does that person hold a key that I need? And if they do not, then they're not for you. So not every strategy, not every piece of advice, not every pathway is going to be for you. And this is where the work is. We need to discern what is and isn't for us. This is going to be so highlighted where we're coming into the AI world. It's starting to creep into branding and mimicking of people and replacement of people's content and words, which sounds like the easy way to do things. And I've certainly tried it, but funnily, I always end up with a frustration around it. I haven't fully sat with that frustration if it's actually like a block in myself or it's like my soul being like, don't try. But we have a lot of fakeness. We have a lot of people out of integrity. We have a lot of greed and a lot of ego. The need for people to be who they are authentically, soul, voice, speak your expression, be who you are, not what someone else is mapping you to be, is going to be more and more needed as we move into this dystopia. The dystopia is going to leave. It's not dissociation. I'm trying to find that word. You know, when you see something and it just leaves like a niggle in because there's something that's not fully connecting. And this is what we're going to find because this inauthenticity or like everyone's starting to speak and look like each other as well. If people haven't cottoned on to the fact that the beauty industry in and of itself is literally morphing people's faces to look the same, it's everyone's starting to look the same now and we're just losing it. We're losing the soul uniqueness of what we've all come here for. And the craving for people that are looking for that is going to intensify the more we move into this dystopia where we just become like robots. This is what this is you need to let your soul map your journey. This is what people are craving from you. This is what the world is craving is creative expression, self-expression, people bringing their different lens into it rather than this mimicking that we see. And it's such a quick trap to fall into because you enter into a space where you probably haven't, I don't know, like you don't feel as knowledgeable or there's other people that are further than you. And we end up being quite susceptible to listening to the way other people have done it and then just templating it and following it. But this is really a call for those that want to show up as more of you are and to do the inner work to be able to trust that your guidance is better for you than someone else's way. That's really what it means to come into the inner compass, to direct your life from your inner knowing. Now, I haven't always done that. I have been obviously totally conditioned into my corporate career, although when you do look back at your career, certain aspects naturally feed into strengths. But by and large, doing that and saying, fuck you to the system and pulling away. Freedom is my number one value. It is like the top of the top. I am free spirit by nature. But interestingly, even with that perspective, I came into a world of business, which I knew nothing about. And very, very quickly, I was like, how do I do it? And I followed the systems, ended up in business courses, was doing it all. As I said, I found a lot of the strategies to be very cringe. And I found a lot of resistance to doing them. And then I had to talk the ego out, but then I was still doing it. I'm like, there's got to be a different way to this. If you as a customer wouldn't respond to whatever strategy they're telling you to use, don't do it because your avatar is probably going to be, or people you work with or in your career are probably going to be quite similar to you. So if you wouldn't respond to it, don't. A lot of what I was doing, I was like, oh, this would cringe me out like big time. Anyway, I fell into the trap and I got to a place in my business where I was very focused into hypnotherapy. And I just started realizing I just wasn't fulfilled. In fact, I was feeling pretty similar to what I felt in corporate, where it felt like another trap that I had created. The way I was working and approaching it, it felt like another to-do list. It felt like another hustle. It felt like I've got to. It just felt like another lot of pressure, a lot of learning, a lot of overwhelm. The most interesting and telltale thing of it all is it wasn't actually working at the time. Because there was a lot of force, there was a lot of wounding around scarcity and beliefs around not knowing what I'm doing and I don't have the power for this. And that's where we naturally start to outsource to others to tell us what to do. And I was very much looking for that. I was very much like, just tell me what to do and I'll do it. But that's the space we get into where if you are the freedom seeker like me, you probably don't want that, but it's this very fine line where you find yourself doing that. I got stuck and then I ended up working out, at least the soul slaps were coming in quite hard of like, this isn't working. You need to pause, you need to stop. And I did because I got to the point where I'm like, I don't want to build a path. I don't want to build a business. I want to build a soul led business. I want it to be soul led. There's nothing I want to gain from building just a business to say, oh my God, I did it. Over the healing journey, my need for legacy or validation is minimal at the moment. It used to be my core driver. I always wanted people to know how smart and successful I was. I've moved through this period of life where I didn't have that. I was like, well, who am I? Turns out it's just, it's a validation identity. And I kind of dropped it. That was last year where I really ended up in that void and I like was low on money. I hit all my blocks at that point. And then just through that, I was like, I don't want to do anything to make my image feel better. I genuinely want to feel very fulfilled with what I'm doing and have impact, not on everyone. Who you work with is very specific. I want this to be soul led. I took a pause because everything I was doing before was without me actually realizing it. Because this is what call it the spiritual ego at the beginning, where you think you've learned all of these spiritual principles, but you're still very much in your ego and you don't quite realize that. And this is where we start to choose someone else's map and we want to be told what to do. And then I paused, kind of stepped away and took an entirely different approach. And then it's through that process of coming right back in where the insights started landing. To be fair, I did get a bit of a force on this because there was a period where I'd almost fully pulled away. I was getting paid a lot in freelance at this point, and I'm like, it's so easy breezy, blah, blah, blah. And then there was a point where it fell through. I knew that my soul was like, okay, it's time to stop resting. You need to get back to your creation, which is precisely what I did. This wasn't that long ago. This was where the Inner Compass Collective has really come from. That has been building for 2 years, but it's morphed and shifted into what it truly needed to be, which is actually guiding life through your own inner compass, which is what I started to do. And things started to shift. The momentum has come. It's not necessarily easy because I've made a commitment to myself to make every single business decision and life decision off of my inner compass through using different tools and strategies to kind of come in and understand where the intuition and the soul is wanting to guide you. And even when it doesn't make sense, I've made a commitment to do it anyway. And this has been the journey I've been on, where I've started up women's circles. I've already run a beta round of the first round. I'm moving into the second round. I did all of that through following the inner compass. I remember when the freelance dropped out, I was like, all right, so I've got to get back. And then my intuition was like, get it out, speak it in your circle. So I was like, how am I going to find these people? It's a group one. Spoke it in my circle and filled all the spots within a week. It's just a very different way of moving. Even through this lens, because I do have all of the marketing lingo that I've picked up, and a client of mine is very thick in this as well. I made her realize there's almost a deconditioning process we need to go through of everything that someone's told us of how we should do something and filter it through our own discernment. So I have all of the strategies and they were all coming up in my sphere when I'm coming into this, and I fed them all through. I use my Inner Compass Reset. It's a journey where you throw up two choices, and then the intuition and the soul's gonna, it was pretty evident, is gonna show you which one. And I just threw all of the strategies up into this journey and I was like, okay, it doesn't make super logical sense. The journey keeps telling me not to do certain audience building things. It's like no to ads, no to an idea I had about community, no. And then it's showing me that it's all through networking, it's all through being out. I'm like, all right, okay, we're just going to follow. Doesn't feel comfortable, doesn't make logical sense, but I'm going to follow it anyway. This is what it means to follow your own map before asking anyone what to do, where to go. Ask yourself first, trust yourself first. In order to lead your own path, you need to learn and grow and strengthen your trust in your inner voice. The only way you do that is by listening and acting. So it's not just about receiving the intuition, you always receive an action. Whatever that action is, no matter how uncomfortable it makes you, that's what you need to do. The moment you do that action, you start to build a bank of trust and then you keep going. This is how we map the path. We have to trust ourselves. It's really the opposite of what has been laid out in the, particularly even just the spiritual community or the personal development journey. There's a lot of narcissism in there as well, which, as I said, if you haven't checked your ego, the ego will come up. It's like an industry that parades with people giving advice, but it's very unsolicited in many occasions. I think the work is tuning into our own discernment of what is right and what isn't right. Now, your intuition isn't always going to lead you into positive experiences. It might lead you into something that you don't want to experience, like failure, rejection, judgment. Ride it through, because on the other end of it, moving through and processing, you're going to realize exactly why you had to go through that. I had to hit a load of failures and rejections because rejection was a big one for me. It's probably the biggest block that shows up in my business. Even just putting my stuff out there will have that rejection block. The more that you face it, the less of the charge is actually there. And your intuition will be guiding you also to situations that might be just for the service of helping you remove a block that you need to remove in order to get to the next level. And so that is the journey that I'm on. That's the journey I take my clients through. I do have the next round, as I was saying, of the Inner Compass Collective, which is opening in November. This is for women who may already be in their business or very early stages of understanding that your career is not quite right. You're getting that niggle anywhere in that spectrum, but it's really for the women who want to lead their own map. I don't give you your actions. I don't give you your direction. I give you the tools to get your own direction. And that's a very key distinction. This is not a course for getting a lot of strategy or ways of doing things. It is about how you come into your own inner compass to define your vision for where you want to go. What does that look like and feel like on a career and business front? And then the tools daily to work with your shadow, because that's part of it, but guide all decisions through your inner compass, because that is the only way you're going to lead the path that you are truly here to lead versus getting trapped in leading a path mapped by someone else. A path that mapped by someone else is not going to give you what you're looking for. And it's also not what other people are looking for from you. We need more people anchored in their truth and who they really are, the voice and what they're here to share. Otherwise, we're just going to go into this dystopian, I don't even know where. I've got some inclinations of where it's going, but this work is so important right now because for every shift that we push on the other side, we create change. We need more people being who they are, stepping up into their gifts and their genius and sharing it so that we can actually create change together. There's one point I forgot, and this probably should have come earlier, but I kind of went fully, completely off script here. When you think about if you are in a business and you really, really sit, because I know that a lot of the fear and the logic can try and guide you or talk you into getting someone to tell you the how. Be mindful of whatever line you are in. Think of the top of the top. None of them followed a template. Most revolutionary businesses like Apple deliberately went off from what they were supposed to do. They followed their own way, they followed their own design, and that's precisely why they were successful, because they didn't follow what they were told to do. They followed their own guidance and the energy of what they were creating versus being told that there is a right way to do this and a wrong way. Because if they had followed what they were told to do, they would have just stuck where they were supposed to go. But a lot of those businesses totally blew the ceiling off of what was expected because they had the radical trust in their vision to keep going, even though it didn't make any sense. That's the energy that we need. And it takes time to cultivate, but that is the energy that we need. Radical self trust and probably relatively delusional belief in what we're creating. So I will leave it there. If any of this has resonated, if any of this is talking to you, then I will leave the link for the course intake so you can check it out. But also for the decision making, the Inner Compass Reset is the journey to use. This is one I use whenever I've got a decision and the ego is just a little bit loud. I use this one. So I'm going to share those two links and use them. Come back into the compass, create your own map. Be you, be you, be you. Stop following what other people are telling you to do and start following what your soul is telling you to do.